Hey, Dr. Michelle, I see you. Thank you guys for joining on in right on time. I love that. Thank you so much. Shamaya, I see you. Welcome on in. Dr. Michelle, thank you for grabbing your daily heart. Me, I see you. Hold on, let me just pull it up. Everyone just joining on in. Remember, we are grabbing our daily heart me. We are liking the live. Once we hit 5K likes, we're gonna go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. Once we hit 5K likes, we're gonna go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. One second, let me send it out. Thank you for joining on in early, Dr. Michelle. I see you. Let me add it to my story. 1 second. Piles, I see you. Thank you so much for joining on in. Thank you for being here on time. I'm just adding it to my story and sending. Let me send it to my other. Dr. Michelle, thank you so much for liking the live. How is the audio? Thumbs up in the chat if the audio is good. Good evening, blessed believer. I see you. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome back to Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. So for all of you in here, as we know, we are liking the live, grabbing our daily heart me, and once we get to 5K likes, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let me send it out to my other guests too. Okay, I see the thumbs up in the chat. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. I see you. Just 1 second, y'all. You know how it is. Just setting everything up. 1 second. Piles, I see you. Thank you so much for grabbing the Hey, Mandy, welcome on in. Thank you so much. Thank you for grabbing your daily heart me. As we all know, once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare, and then we're going to get into our interviews. Thank you so much for closing my first goal, Dr. Michelle. I see you. Hold on. Let me just put a goal so I don't have to come back and edit it. Hold on. And you guys know I always choose 8. That's my lucky number. Hold on. I wish I can just come onto this live, press go live, and then everything is just set up how I need everything to be set up. But that's a perfect world, right? Thank you so much for the popular boy. I see you. Piles, how are you doing? Dr. Michelle, how are you doing? Mandy, how are you doing? Just checking in with everyone. Dr. Tanna, I see you. Thank you so much for joining on in. Everyone joining in, we are grabbing our daily heart me, liking the live. Once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare, and then we're going to do our 2 interviews. Okay, today is jam-packed with 2 interviews. You guys, I'm doing multiple interviews because I'm preparing you guys for my big one. Hallie Q, welcome on in. I see you. I'm doing multiple interviews. The past 2 weeks, I've been doing multiple guests on my interviews. Dr. Tanna, I see you. Thank you so much for being here. Blessed believer, you like my music selection? You know I'm always switching it up. But yes, I've been doing a variety of guests on each interview to prepare you guys for the big TikTok conference that I'm hosting September 16th, 7:30 p.m. The Healthcare Synergy Conference. Mrs. Tasha, thank you so much for joining on in. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. We are grabbing our daily heartbeat and liking the live. Once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. And then we're going to get into our 2 interviews. Mrs. Tasha, thank you so much for your support. I see you. Halle Q, thank you so much for your support. I see you. Thank you so much. 5K likes. We're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. The trending topic in healthcare today is interesting, and it is only happening. It's happening right here in the state of Florida, but you know, I feel like the state of Florida is like the state where they play around and see if they could do this in other states, in other red states. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it a buck with you guys, but the trending topic is very interesting. Okay, Dr. Tanna, you are first. Dr. Michelle Henry, you are second. Okay, that is the order. Mrs. Tasha, I see you. Thank you so much for liking the live. I see you. Thank you so much for your support. Once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. The trending topic is interesting. I want to pick your brain. Miss Rolanda, I see you. Thank you so much for your support. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. We are grabbing our daily heartbeat and liking the live. Once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. Miss Rolanda, you're here in Florida, so you know about this trending topic in healthcare that I'm going to discuss. It's starting here in Florida first, and I'm sure they're going to try to see how it works in other states, other red states specifically. Okay, but that's the trending topic. We're gonna get into it in a little bit. Once we hit 5K likes, it's a collaboration. We both got to put in the work. We tapping the live, we grabbing our daily heartbeat, so we can get to 5K likes, so we can get this conversation going. Everybody, welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, you guys know, every session I switch the music up. Sometimes I'm doing my Afro beats, sometimes I'm doing my old school Jamaican beats, sometimes I'm doing the dancehall music. I switch it up. I give a variety. Kaylin, welcome on in. Thank you so much for joining. Miss Tasha, thank you so much for those popular votes. I see you. Thank you so much for those support. You know what's crazy? There's a couple of you guys in here who healthcare may not be your background, but I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you guys showing up and just listening to what this professor got going on, and just listening to what this professor is saying. You guys know I'm a healthcare administration subject matter expert, but I am big on professional development. I am big on mentorship. I am big on going back to school. I got all that going on, but I'm also a professor who teaches healthcare marketing, a professor who teaches legal aspects and legislation in healthcare, a professor who teaches epidemiology 101. Okay? Lovely Ross, I see you. Thank you so much for joining on in. So once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. We are almost there. Y'all are doing great. Thank you so much. Dr. Michelle Henry, I see you liking the live. Mrs. Tasha, thank you so much for your support. I see you. Thank you so much. Once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started. Y'all know the drill. 5K likes. Grabbing the daily heartbeat, liking the live, 5K likes. Once we hit 5K likes, we're going to go ahead and get started on our trending topic in healthcare. And as you all know, I breeze through the trending topic. I'm not trying to teach you guys nothing. I'm just trying to tell you guys a trending topic in healthcare. Okay? So we're just going to breeze through it. And I just want to share with you guys what's going on. We are at 5K likes. You're amazing. Miss Tasha, I see you. Excuse me. Mrs. Tasha, I see you. Thank you so much for that. So welcome on into Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. We are going to start with our trending topic in healthcare, and then I have 2 great interviews today. I'm interviewing Dr. Tanna. I think I'm saying your name right. You can correct me once I pull you up, Dr. Tanna. And then the second interview will be Dr. Michelle Henry. 2 great ladies. You guys know I only like to bring up subject matter experts on here, and the algorithm is always pushing out the right people for me to connect and collaborate with. Mrs. Tasha, thank you so much for your support. I see you. So the trending topic I want to share with you guys, okay? It's Florida is the first state. Before I get into this topic, everybody is entitled to their own opinions. Number 1, Mrs. Tasha, I see you. Thank you so much. And you guys, as I'm going, a thumbs up or praying hands is me just acknowledging you guys in the chat. Okay, the cowboy hat kind of matched my shirt. A thumbs up or praying hands is me just acknowledging you guys in the chat. I don't want to throw myself off, and I don't want to interrupt the guests. So if you see me doing a thumbs up or a praying hands, that's me acknowledging you guys in the chat, okay? So trending topic in healthcare. Florida aims, and you guys know I got multiple screens, and I'm bringing you guys real information, real news. Dr. Michelle, thank you so much. I see you. So let me start, y'all. Just chill. Let me start, okay? Florida aims to ban vaccine mandates for school children. I'm going to repeat the title again. The state of Florida aims to ban vaccine mandates for school children. Let's briefly just get into it, okay? I'm not on here to tell y'all to be pro-vaccine or against vaccine. I'm not on here to do all of that. I'm just sharing you the trending topic that's going on. And as we all know, this administration, there's a lot going on. It's crazy. So, you know, he loved Florida. Florida is his starter state. And you know he's going to bring this up to the rest of the states, okay? Trending topic in healthcare. The state of Florida bans vaccine mandates for school children, okay? Florida is aiming to become the first U.S. state to cancel all of its vaccine mandates. I'm going to repeat that again. The state of Florida is aiming to become the first U.S. state to cancel all of its vaccine mandates, many of which require children to get jabs against diseases like polio, chickenpox, etc., etc. We know these in order to attend public schools, okay? The state's top health official, Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo, likened the mandates to slavery in announcing the plans. He quoted, "Who am I to tell you what your children should put in your body?" He said, "I don't have the right. Your body is a gift from God." Okay, so that's the angle he going at. Okay. This has caused an uproar down here. Y'all know I'm in Miami, Florida, okay? This has caused an uproar down here, okay? I want to continue. I want to share something else with you. A Democratic state lawmaker described the plan to end all mandates as a reckless and dangerous issue, okay? This public health issue disaster, it's a public health issue disaster in the making for the Sunshine States. While every state requires children to be vaccinated in order to attend public schools, each one has different policies about giving exemptions to mandates, etc., etc. We all know that, right? Now, let me just provide a little bit more clarification. This is vaccines including chickenpox. This is vaccines including polio, measles, all of those. What is that going to look like for schools? What is that going to look like for schools? And do you get, drop in the chat, do you guys feel as though this is going to be trickled down into other states, other red states specifically, like Texas? I think Texas is next. But this was last Wednesday, okay? And things are moving in effect. This was just last Wednesday they announced this. That's going to start in Florida, the state of Florida. I just wanted to share that with you guys, okay? It definitely will, okay? I don't know if it, pals, I don't know if it's going to hit New York yet, because, you know, him in New York is kind of, it's a weird relationship. But Florida, and I think Texas will be next too, okay? I'm not telling you what to do with your children. I'm not telling you what to do with your vaccine choices. I'm just sharing with you guys the trending topic in healthcare, okay? It absolutely will. Texas and Ohio, okay? Exactly. That was a trending topic in healthcare. I'll repeat it for you one more time. The state of Florida aims to ban vaccine mandates for school children. Blessed Believer said, "We will not have enough peds hospitals," okay? Like the lawmaker said, this is a public health disaster in the making. So what if another outbreak or another pandemic happens? Then what? If another outbreak or another pandemic happens, then what? Chad, I see you. Welcome on into Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. So let's bring up our first guest. Let me make sure she is here. Dr. Tanna, you are up first. Everyone joining on in, we are grabbing our daily heartbeat. We are liking the live. Mrs. Virgo, I see you. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. Like I said, they didn't learn anything from what happened in Texas recently, okay? Okay, Dr. Tanna, I sent you the invite. They definitely did not. Let me scroll up and try to make sure I didn't miss any other comments. Dr. Tina, I'm going to send it to you again. Let me see if this will work. Hold on. Okay, Dr. Tina, I just sent you the invitation again to come on up. Dr. Lewis, I see you. Welcome on in. Thank you for joining. Dr. Tina, are you getting the request, Dr. Tina? You don't see. So when I send you the request, does it oh, let me check the setting. 1 second. Dr. Tanner, send me a request. Request to come on up. Let me see if it'll come on. Let me see if it'll pop up on my end. Send me a request to come on up. Pals, I see you. Welcome back. Thank you for joining back in. Good evening, Dr. Lewis. I see you. We're just waiting for our first guest to come on up. If anything, I can always start off with Dr. Michelle Henry to see. Okay, I see. Let's give it a minute. Hold on. I think it's coming. Y'all, this is the first time TikTok has done this on me. Auto accept request. No, I'm not auto accepting no requests. Okay, we'll check something. We'll check. Dr. Lewis, I see you. Thank you so much for being here. We'll, Dr. Michelle Henry, we'll start off with you next, and then we'll come on up. Okay, hold on. I'll circle back with you, Dr. Tana. It's not allowing. Dr. Michelle Henry, welcome on in. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can see and hear you.
Okay, we
Trying
can't
to
see you.
remember how I can use myself on camera.
Question,
Here we
Dr.
go.
Michelle, when I just sent you that invite request, what popped up or what came up when I sent you that request, just so I could tell what Dr. Tana.
A screen giving me the option to accept.
Okay, Dr. Tana, did you get when I sent you the request? Did you get that screen? You could just drop it in the chat, okay? I just didn't want to keep everybody waiting. But Dr. Michelle Henry, welcome on in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to step into office hours with Dr. Johnson. How are you doing today, ma'am?
I am doing well, and thank you for this opportunity.
No
I'm
problem. Thank you
excited.
so much. Like I said, the algorithm brought me to you, and then I do have some supporters who are constantly talking about you and reposting your content. So I was just bound to see your content overall. So, Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. These interviews are dedicated to you all. So I just want we're going to turn it over to you. To kick us off, can you share with us your educational and professional background? Obviously, this is social media, so we don't share, our exact name of the locations or organizations in which we work at for, them safety reasons. But could you just share with us your educational and professional background? We'll start there.
I have a PhD in counseling psychology
Mm-hmm.
from the Pennsylvania State University. And I also have a dual certification in health and life coaching from a program that's accredited um, by the International Coaching Federation.
Okay.
I have an extensive mental health background, which also includes care management. I've worked with individuals, families, couples, groups across various settings,
Mm-hmm.
such as behavioral health centers, private um, private agencies providing mental health services, hospitals, schools, outpatient psychiatry.
Mm-hmm.
Just working with a variety of individuals with really complex needs.
Right.
And I've also spent a lot of time providing services in home services,
Mm-hmm.
which I have to say is probably my favorite experience out of all the experiences I've had.
Wow. Okay. Nice. I love that. So a plethora of a variety of different areas in healthcare. Let me ask you something. What do you enjoy the most about working in healthcare?
I guess so. So I work mostly in the realm of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's a relationship
Mm-hmm.
between the two.
Right. Right.
And given my background, I have a lot of experiences or opportunities rather to collaborate with other healthcare professionals.
Right.
So, I may get a referral for a client who wants to focus on dating and relationship
Mm-hmm.
issues. And, it inevitably that may be the presenting concern, but as we continue to explore, the client's needs, I find that there are other concerns that need to be addressed that may have caused or is causing obstacles or challenges in terms of being able to establish the type of relationship that's desired.
Right. Right. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you something also. Counseling. How important is it for there to be proper representation as it relates to counseling? Representation as you being a black healthcare professional and you being a woman. That's what the representation I'm talking about. So as it relates to counseling, I mean, the questions I have laid out for you, we're going in a different direction, but I just want to make sure we just highlight that and you're able to share that from your perspective. So the representation of in healthcare and in counseling, how important is that for you?
Oh, it's very important,
Mm-hmm.
especially as I reflect on my own experiences,
Mm-hmm.
engaging in therapy, counseling, coaching. As a woman, I want to know that I'm being heard and I'm not being judged.
Right.
As women are often as women often experience in society.
Mm-hmm.
So being a woman, I can appreciate, the importance of being vulnerable and expressing my needs without being labeled as weak or not being able to show up in a way that's going to allow me to attract or work through whatever challenges that come up. So knowing that another woman and even a black woman can relate to those experiences is important, and it's a topic of discussion that comes up with clients who also value that.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I want to let's dive into your questions, okay? Obviously, like we discussed, I do my homework and my questions are tailored for each of my interviewee, okay? So I pull the questions basically from the content of your pages and is what I gather. And maybe it may be some questions that I have upon reviewing your content, your page overall. So just to start off, how did you get into being a dating and relationship coach? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, I've always had a passion
Mm-hmm.
uh, for working with others around dating and relationships. But I have to say, what really started that curiosity and that strong desire is my own personal journey.
Okay.
I remember before, meeting my husband,
Mm-hmm.
dating and feeling very frustrated and tired and thinking, this is never going to happen. And after and I dated a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to get to a point where I recognized that I needed support.
Right.
And so when I started to get support, I mean, not only did I work with a therapist at some point, but also a dating and relationship coach. And it wasn't until I started to seek support
Mm-hmm.
when I started to understand a little bit more about my mindset,
Mm-hmm.
how I was showing up,
Mm-hmm.
what needed attention, and how I could start to break those patterns that were showing up. And once I started to see that progress,
Right.
not perfection, but progress, I felt really encouraged, and my mindset was very different. I started paying attention to the narratives that I would tell myself. And so having a more positive mindset set allowed me to show up in a way that positioned me to be able to attract the love of my life.
Before we continue on the next questions, everyone just joining on in, welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. Today we are starting off interviewing Dr. Michelle Henry, subject matter expert as it relates to being a dating and relationship coach. You guys know my background is in healthcare, but I always like to come on here and show you guys a variety of people who are doing great work within their respective communities. And Dr. Michelle Henry is definitely one of those candidates. So, and thank you so much to everybody supporting my live and closing out my goal. I can't even focus on that right now. I'm tunnel vision on you, Dr. Henry. Okay. Um, like I said, I went to your page, gathered some information, and there are some sentences, some phrases that I pulled from your page that I would love for you to just highlight for us over here on office hours. Okay, so there's one video where you're just saying dating isn't failure, it's feedback. What do you mean? What does that mean? I see you, Tiffany. Welcome on in. I see you. Dating isn't failure, it's feedback. What does that mean?
That means, when, and I'm gonna speak to women, for
Hmm.
women who are dating and experiencing a pattern of attracting the wrong partners and feeling like there must be something I'm doing wrong, there must be something about me. And I've had conversations with women who have said, I feel like I'm failing,
Right.
especially women who have excelled in other areas in their life. Like it doesn't quite make sense. And so, I like to encourage women not to, again, this goes back to mindset,
Mm-hmm.
not to think of it as failure, but
Mm-hmm.
it's feedback. So if you're a woman who's dating and you're seeing a pattern of attracting the wrong partners, what is this pattern showing you? Are there certain things that are being accepted?
Mm-hmm.
Are there red flags that are being ignored? It's always feedback. There's always a lesson, despite how painful and frustrating it can feel along the way.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that and being so transparent. We're going to continue, okay? What advice would you give those who may be interested about entering or re-entering into the dating scene?
Ah, yes. So many women feel really anxious about it
Mhm.
and may not always feel secure and optimistic. And so, I encourage, first of all, I want to normalize the anxiety around it,
Okay.
especially if, for women who haven't dated a lot, who have had a number of negative experiences,
Hmm.
or, I even hear from women who say, I don't really have experience with dating. This is new to me. And so having that anxiety because there's that element of unknown,
Right.
can be, very anxiety provoking. So normalizing that, also normalizing any emotion that comes up, because the goal is not to stuff the emotions down and to not connect with that, but it's to feel it, so that they can move forward and attract the type of relationship that's desired. And
Exactly.
just knowing there's no pressure. Be who you are,
Hmm.
your authentic self. There are so many wonderful qualities that come about when we're just being who we are.
Exactly. Definitely. Speaking of attracting relationships, right? There's a video where you're discussing attracting emotional, unavailable partners and being guarded. Okay. Oftentimes people are always talking about, I have my guard up, I'm guarded. And that can even just be outside of not just romantic relationships, friendships as well too. This I feel as though this information can be applied to various types of relationships, which is why it's so important to have these conversations. So, Dr. Henry, attracting emotional unavailability. What would you say? How can we not attract emotional unavailability?
Mm. Now, paying attention to all the
Right.
signs, having open communication.
Mhm.
I always encourage women to be very clear about what they want in a
Right.
relationship.
Right.
And part of that is, you know, being curious enough to ask the questions to better understand where the other person is.
Hmm.
If the other person is emotionally available based on their conversation, if they're feeling guarded, if they're not expressing their emotions, and sometimes they'll tell you directly that, I don't go there.
Hmm.
Um, and not dismissing any of those indications, those signals. because that can be a red flag, especially if it does
Mm-hmm.
not align with the need to connect with someone who's emotionally available.
Okay.
So, because what often happens is, you get excited, you make that initial connection, it's that spark, and it's easy to dismiss some of the red flags because it just feels good being in the presence of someone because you want to feel that connection.
Right. You want that connection. And speaking of connections, these questions are flowing seamlessly. I love it. Speaking of connections, Dr. Henry, what does it look like to date without desperation? Because oftentimes people are so desperate for a partner, they're attracting unavailable or what did you say? Emotional unavailability. So, what does it look like to date without desperation? Can you shed some light for us?
Yes, yes. It starts with the mindset again, knowing what you want,
Mm-hmm.
being so clear and standing firm on that. Because if for women who want to be in a committed relationship that feels meaningful,
Right.
if if they enter into a relationship with someone and they express that and the other person is not on the same page, they're not aligned,
Mm-hmm.
and they just kind of dismiss it, that is showing some desperation. It can,
Okay.
because basically you're telling yourself, I know what I want. I've expressed what I want. However, it's more important for me to be in a relationship because of, whatever the ultimate goal is. And I can use myself as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Before I met my husband, I had a significant relationship and I was actually engaged to this
Okay.
man. And, we had that initial spark, which faded pretty quickly, quite
Mm-hmm.
frankly.
Mm-hmm.
But what got my attention was that he also wanted to get married.
Mm.
He ran out and he allowed me to pick out the ring. And, I thought, oh my gosh, this is the first time I met a man who was serious about getting married.
Right.
And there were so many red flags. And I actually felt the desperation. I knew I felt desperate because I allowed myself to be led by this promise of being married when we were not aligned on
Mm.
so many, we were misaligned on so
Mm-hmm.
many levels. I was so miserable. And when we show up in these relationships and we don't stand firm on what we want and we don't know our worth to the point where it doesn't matter what shows up, what shiny objects, if we're not able to stand firm on what we believe, we show up with that desperate energy. And unfortunately, there are people who will take advantage of that.
Okay. Definitely. Speaking of desperation, just staying on that topic and taking advantage of different energies. What advice would you say to best avoid a toxic relationship or recognize when you are in one? Because oftentimes people don't want to recognize or acknowledge that they are in a toxic situation. So, how would you? What advice would you give someone to avoid being in a toxic relationship or recognize when they are in one?
Avoiding a toxic relationship. Again, going back to mindset, it always starts there. And sometimes when we have unresolved stuff in our past, sometimes, that can come up. And without being aware of it, sometimes you can connect with people on a
Mm-hmm.
toxic level if there's anything unresolved, especially as it relates to, trauma. And unfortunately, if there are people out there who seek to take advantage of vulnerable women
Mm-hmm.
who, have anything unresolved going on, or just going back to the previous question about desperation,
Mm-hmm.
that unfortunately could be a setup for being in a toxic relationship. Or again, as I've shared, dismissing the red flags. And this also applies if you're already in the relationship.
Right.
Because that relationship I talked about, the one before meeting my husband, I mean, that was definitely toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already in the relationship, and I just continued, as I stated, I continued to ignore the red flags.
Right, right. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're gonna continue. We're gonna kind of switch gears a little bit, okay? women being submissive, but can men be submissive as well? Now, coming from I'm Jamaican, so coming from the Caribbean background, the Caribbean culture, we're used to seeing women be submissive. But you're the dating expert, you're the relationship expert, right? So, is there a world where men can be submissive too?
Yes, I do. I do believe that. Because when I think of, and I know there are different opinions about this,
Right.
but when I think of submission, I think of, they're honoring each other,
Mm,
being loyal, being committed.
mm-hmm.
There being that mutual agreement and exchange in terms of how you show up in the relationship and you support each other,
Right.
and being very clear about how you define your roles in the relationship. That's all part of having that solid communication, because I I think that's an important part of the submissiveness that comes up in that is honored in relationships too. Having a conversation about how that looks. My husband and I have had those conversations too. You
Mm-hmm.
you want to be on the same page about what that means.
Thank you so much for sharing that and shedding some light on that. And I'm seeing in the chat they're saying trusting and they're saying wow, submission. That's a big topic. So thank you so much
It,
for shedding light, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. A thumbs up, praying hands is me just acknowledging you guys in the chat. Let's continue, okay? Um, Judgment in dating doesn't define you; it redefines you. Like I said, I did my homework. I pulled content from your page. You said in one of your videos, judgment in dating doesn't define you; it redefines you. Can you shed some light?
yeah, yeah. It's again, this is also related to vulnerability
Right,
too. You
right,
know,
right.
and I think about, women who are dating, just exploring different options, and it's
Mhm.
very easy to feel judged and misunderstood in the process. And this is why, I often remind women to be aware of your mindset,
Right.
be clear on what you want, communicate,
Mm-hmm.
and know your worth, so that when you are feeling judged, not only by the other person but even judging yourself in the relationships, that it doesn't define you. It refines you in so many ways, and that also relates to what I talked about earlier in terms of, the lessons that are gained from being in relationships.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's not failure, it's feedback.
It's not failure, it's feedback. I'm going to repeat again. It's not failure, it is definitely feedback. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, what would you say to those who are constantly saying out loud, why can't I find my partner? Why can't I find my wife? Why can't I find my husband? Where is my wife? Where is my husband? What would you say to those who are so hyper focused on why they can't find their partner? What would you say to them? I would tell them, just relax, let it happen. But you're the professional. What would you say?
Yeah, I always, I always, I'm always very curious about, the hyper focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to say thank you everyone for the gifts too, by the way. I want to
Yes.
acknowledge that and all the comments. Yeah, I always wonder, like, what is that about?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, we as women can put a lot of pressure on ourselves.
Right.
As a, when we think about relationships, being in a relationship, the type of relationship we want. And when that is the focus, it consumes you to the point where you don't have a lot of space to continue to get to know yourself, to make connections that may be right in front of you, because you're just so focused on the outcome. And I even encourage women, when you're dating, even if you met someone and you're getting to know them, try not to be so focused on the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that whatever the outcome is going to be, it's going to be the one for you. Let the engagement, let the relationship happen, unfold naturally, because being so hyper focused on it will actually cause you to miss a lot in the process, like those red flags that I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So not putting that pressure on yourself. because that's usually when the magic happens, as I like to say.
Right, you nailed it. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to switch gears again. Office hours with Dr. Johnson. We're constantly switching gears. We have so much to cover, but I have a couple more questions for you, but we're going to switch gears, okay? Um,
Okay.
Dating after divorce or dating after being widowed? What advice would you give somebody who's in either of those situations but apprehensive about getting back into the dating field after either they've been through a divorce or their partner has transitioned? Well, what advice would you give said person?
Yeah, that's an important one. I do get that from time to time, that question.
Hmm.
And I always say, you know, give yourself grace
Right.
and make sure that you are allowing yourself, or that you allowed yourself, to grieve the loss.
Mm.
Because we all grieve in different ways, and I certainly don't believe in putting a timeline on grieving, but allowing yourself to grieve. Know when you have reached a point where you've done enough grieving, where you also feel it's time to get out there
Right.
and date. And even if that feels like the right decision, again, let it happen gradually.
Hmm.
No pressure, because I think sometimes I've had conversations with women, under those circumstances where they feel this pressure, like I've lost so much time because of the important grieving process that happened. And then there's like this urgency to hurry up and make a connection with someone else. And I get that,
Right.
especially if you're feeling lonely, or you just want companionship. But just being sure that you are okay. And you're okay when you start to test the waters, put yourself out there. Know if there's stuff coming up for you. You're getting, triggered emotionally in some way.
Exactly. I see if something resonated with Lo. I see in the chat you're saying step by step process. It
Yeah,
definitely is. Yes. Um,
absolutely. Honda, yes. And hello, everyone.
Moving right along, Dr. Henry, why should you not settle in a relationship? Before we wrap it up, why should you not settle in a relationship? And I want you to kind of angle it in romantic relationships and even friendship relationships. Why should we not settle in relationships and the importance of setting boundaries for ourselves? Why should we not settle in relationships? Take us to class.
Well, that relationship I referenced,
Hmm.
the one where I was engaged
Hmm.
before I met my husband. I definitely settled in that relationship because with that nice shiny object, as far as I was concerned, I was going to be able to marry someone. And the more I settled into that relationship, not not having my needs met, knowing that we were misaligned on so many levels, I started to really question who I was. I didn't like who I was, and I mean that sincerely. I did not like who I was. I was depressed.
Okay.
And I remember having conversations with my mom about it, and she was so upset, because she knew I was changing, and
Hmm.
she would tell me that.
Hmm.
And she's like, you settled for this man, and he is changing you. You're not recognizable. I didn't have that joy because I like to smile and laugh. And
Right.
see, when you settle, it does change you. It changes your mindset. You start to question yourself. You don't trust yourself. And I was doing all those things,
Mhm.
really questioning my judgment,
Mhm.
especially given my background.
Okay.
And I thought, what is happening here?
Right.
And so of course that's also, uh, that it's an example of, it doesn't matter who you are, how smart you are, what your background is, your experiences. There's something about when you are led by your emotions, you allow yourself to be vulnerable and you lose yourself in the relationship. Settling will do that.
Mm. Okay, you said something important. Losing yourself in a relationship. I know a lot of people who are thinking that. Okay, losing yourself in a relationship. Um, Next question I want to ask you. We're gonna be before we wrap out your segment up. Obviously, I can't skip over this question due to your background, but mental health. All of my interviews, I always like to incorporate some aspect of mental health and discussing some aspect of mental health because um, that's a prevalent topic within the Black and Brown community. And if we're coming on here and teaching and doing all of this, we have to discuss important topics, trending topics. Okay. So each of my guests, I always ask them, what do they do to stay on top of their mental health overall? Bible Wellness Woman, I see you. Thank you so much for joining on in. Dr. Henry, what do you do to stay on top of your mental health?
I love this question.
Mm-hmm.
This is such an important question, and that was interesting timing there when
Wasn't
Women
it?
Wellness. Yep,
Wasn't wasn't it?
that timing.
I don't know if you know, but I've interviewed her as well too, and she came in. She came. That was divine timing. That was definitely divine timing because, as you all know, everybody in the chat, vibe wellness woman. That's a subject matter expert. Everything holistic, everything vibes, everything wellness. Okay, so you popped in at the right time. Thank you so much for that. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm glad you said because I was actually thinking the same thing too. Vibe wellness woman, you came in at the right time.
I had to say it. I had to say
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, this is so important. I, I take my mental health very seriously
Right.
because I think a lot, I process a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always aware of how I'm feeling and if something feels a little off. And even if I'm unable to name it, I
Mm-hmm.
allow myself to brain dump, brain dump by journaling, and that often bring clarity. I love to engage in anything that's going to help me to feel grounded,
Right.
and I like to go on nature walks, especially with my doggy son, and it allows me to clear my mind. And even if I'm feeling really off or not very good, by the time I reach the end of that walk, I'm feeling so much better. Just started getting into yoga, more movement in general, and paying closer attention to my diet. All these things work together. I don't I never I don't subscribe to just one way of managing my mental health, but being able to pull from a variety of resources.
Mm-hmm.
So, depending on whatever I need, I will have something that's going to help me to, feel that internal stability, that peace that I need.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for being so transparent in answering these questions overall. Okay. One more question I like to ask my mental health professionals or my counselors as well. Do therapists have therapists? Do coaches have coaches? Don't make it look like Dr. Johnson is asking that because I already know the answer, but it's the public out there because people always have these questions. Dr. Michelle Henry, do therapists have therapists and do coaches have coaches?
Another great question. Absolutely. In fact, and I have to say this,
Mm-hmm.
when people ask, how do you choose a coach or a therapist?
Right.
And when they're getting to know them, I've always encouraged them find out if they've ever engaged in their own therapy or coaching. Not that they need to go into the
Right.
detail,
We'll find
but
out if
that
they
is important.
addressed it and acknowledged it. Right. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I like it. Did you guys hear that? Find out if they have worked on their mental health overall. Okay? Dr. Henry, thank you so much for sharing that. So let's wrap up this interview. I ask all of my interviews this question at the end of their segment. What is Dr. Michelle Henry's overall why as it relates to the work that you do, as it relates to you being a dating and relationship coach, as it relates to you being a wife? Because Dr. Michelle Henry is a wife. She's a dating expert, a relationship coach, and she's a wife. So, what is Dr. Michelle Henry's overall why?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
My overall why is feeling feeling at
Mm. Mm-hmm.
feeling at peace in my own skin.
Okay.
For years there was a time when I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't at peace. I didn't feel good about who I was. So knowing that I can feel whole, and because of that, I can share I can share parts of myself with others and help them to find that path to wholeness as well.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And once again, thank you so much for being so transparent. That's what Office Hours with Dr. Johnson is all about, dropping gems and being transparent. Dr. Michelle Henry, let me drop you down so that you can keep your points, but we will definitely keep in touch. There's a project that I'm working on that I'm going to be reaching out to a different, don't want to say too much on here. I like to keep things a surprise, but we'll definitely keep in touch for a future project, okay? Thank you so much for taking the time to step into Office Hours and drop gems and take us to class.
My pleasure, and I appreciate everyone. I was just focused on answering the questions, so I didn't see all the comments, but I appreciate everyone who's here, who shared comments, questions, and all the gifts too. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Dr. Johnson. I appreciate you.
No problem. We're going to be in touch, okay?
Sounds good.
Fashion Flirnique, I see you. Thank you so much for joining on in. We just interviewed Dr. Michelle Henry. She was the dating and relationship coach. You guys know I only bring on subject matter experts on Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. Penny, I see you. Thank you for joining on in. Let me try to bring back up. Let me try to bring up Dr. Tanna. I don't know if she is still here. Okay, let me press invite. Dr. Tanna, I just sent you an invite. Let's see if it will allow you. Oh, look, God is good. Oh, because I didn't know what I was going to do. Janae, I see you. Thank you so much for being here. I see you. Dr. Tanner, can you see us? Can you hear us?
I can see you and I can hear you, but I don't know how to turn my camera on. So let me see.
I'm gonna give you a minute because as everybody on here know that we are working professionals. This TikTok business is new to all of us, so they're patient. What I love about the community, they're patient with us. So we'll wait for you to get it together, okay, Dr. Tanner?
Okay, it showed when I clicked it here that I was here. So let me see it. There we go.
Perfect. Before we continue, am I saying your name right? Because I hear in the videos I don't know if you say Dr. Tana or Tanna. Am I saying it right?
Anna. It's like Anna with a T.
Anna with a T. Perfect. Dr. Tanna, thank you so much for taking the time to step into Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. I appreciate your time. Once again, your page came across my FYP and we had to collaborate. I love the content you're creating. I love the motivation that you are coming on here on TikTok and sharing with the audience. So once again, I know you were watching, so you kind of see how the interview is going to go, but could you start us off with your educational and professional background? Obviously, this is social media, so, we don't share, the names of our companies where we work, organizations, et cetera, et cetera. You're a professional. You know how that goes. So could you share with us your educational and professional background?
Sure, absolutely. So I have an undergraduate degree from the illustrious Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina, where I received my undergrad. It's the second all-female college where I received, my foundational background. I have a master's in educational leadership from Trinity University in Washington, D.C., and I have my PhD from Delaware State, where I focused on educational leadership, but focus on parental advocacy and special education policy. I currently work in the Division of Education currently now as a director of special education for a couple of schools to help with compliance and to ensure that children are getting what they need and supporting educational leaders and educators to get them there. And then in my spare time, as you see on TikTok, I went on a healing journey several years ago. Very much resonate with what Dr. Henry shared after going through divorce and going through all of that, and started a healing journey to then reunite with myself to help that. And so it was actually one day, just in my time, that God was like, what you have to share, somebody else may be going through too. And so I hit play, and that's how it started. And that's how my talks really with myself kind of shared in this space.
I love that. So you're really
Space.
I love that. So you're really transparency, Dr. Tina. First off, I want to start off. How was your overall college experience? Oftentimes, we always discuss the different college experiences that people have. How was your overall college experience? Could you share that with us?
Wonderful. I think going to an all-girls school, a lot of people say, how did you deal? But the sisterhood that, our slogan is Bennett College is where younger enter and phenomenal women are inspired and developed. And that's really coming in as a young girl, being the oldest child, really helped me to cultivate that. Starting off at HBCU was very traditional, of course, and I enjoyed my experience. It taught me so much more than just academics. taught me about who I was, developing myself, and understanding that I couldn't just have this education for myself, but I had to have the opportunity to reach back and to give to those who would come after me. Then having gone to a predominantly white institution, experienced a lot of different things. I think even in my space now, because we think about African American women or women, period, we're like 10% who have PhDs, doctorates. So in this very small pool, to even experience some of that, that when I was in my program, always having to prove that I'm supposed to be here. And so I think that, but my foundation at Bennett College taught me that any room that I stepped in, I could make a difference. And so it was just kind of moving through that space. But my undergraduate experience was absolutely amazing.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing the two experiences at a PWI versus an HBCU. So thank you so much for sharing that. I want to jump right into it. What do you enjoy the most about working within education?
Oh, that I get to make a lasting impact. So I believe that, even when we're talking about a lot of my work is spiritually based, I make no apologies for it, but I always believe that, we're placed in things. And I will always say that people have to live in their genius, right? And when you do, you operate well, you flow in it. And the best part for me is to continue to educate those, to ignite a passion for students wanting to take ownership in their own learning. But it really starts with educators. So if you can help an educator find their genius, it spreads because now they're in their sweet spot and they operate in that well. And so the most part I enjoy about it being in education, but in leadership, is I get to help people find their genius and then do well in that. And so then impacted because of that. And so it's been a great, great journey for.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We always talk about pivoting and we always talk about attaining different degrees and is a specific degree needed for certain professions. Okay, so let me ask you something, Dr. Tanna. Without a doctorate degree, would you still be successful within your field, or did your PhD kind of put you up there and elevate you to be a subject matter expert within your niche?
Sure. So I don't, I believe that this was a personal endeavor for me. I do think that there is something to be said about, a terminal degree. Do I believe that people as experts have to have a terminal degree? No. I wanted to be in a space, though. What we do know is sometimes when people see like Dr. Johnson or Dr. Tanna, it causes people to then sometimes hear it different, even though we could be saying the same message. So I don't believe that my PhD made me any better than anyone else. I do believe, though, it does speak to our ability to, really seek further education, that terminal degree, so that I could understand how this PhD would then allow me to be in spaces and advocate for people that don't have it. So it was really more not just for myself, but for the community that I was able to touch. And so for me, I think it plays both ways.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I normally ask this question towards the end, but just based on the questions that I have for you, I'm going to ask this question first, okay? Dr. Tanna, what would you say are some of the best practices for you to stay on top of your mental health?
Therapy. Just, give myself the opportunity to, and I don't do this best. And I do have to thank my partner, my boyfriend, for helping me in this space. I tend to prioritize everyone else besides myself. So really taking a moment to kind of recognize when I need moments to stop and pause, because we can't pour from an empty cup. So just, being in a space where recognizing that prioritizing my mental health is taking time to go out and taking time to, do the things that make me happy so that I can refill my cup, because I give so much. And as I'm sure is the work that you do, you give so much that when you stop to realize you're just constantly working, which tires you out because you love what you do, you're in your genius, but everything needs to be recharged. So, and just spending those times with myself and my kids and, my partner really helped me to kind of refocus myself.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And you said spending time in your genius. I'm gonna say that. I love that. Thank you so much. You dedicated your page to dropping different perspectives and just dropping gems and healing. What made you come to that? What made you say, hey, Dr. Tanna is going to do this here on TikTok, or Dr. Tanna is going to do this on social media?
Yeah, so for me, it was just as a platform because, like many people, are here, and I kind of saw that some of the things that I was going through and experiencing, there had to be someone else, and I wanted to reach a large population of that, and just to kind of share my moments. I always say that these are gems that God drops, and I just shared, and I just kind of speak whatever happens in that moment, and using this platform felt like a way of accountability for me because sometimes we are ashamed of what we've been through. And I give space and voice to know that, what you've been through is just a perspective about where you're going. And so if you change your mindset, you're able to help more than just yourself.
Right. That was a good segue into our next question. Blocking out your negative thoughts and reaffirming yourself. How would you say one kid block out their negative thoughts and reaffirm themselves? It's piggybacking off of that same question.
Yeah, that's typically hard to do. I think it's about being conscious though and aware. That sometimes there's a difference between because we do a lot of self-talk. And then what I've recognized is that we have what we say. And so our thoughts become real for us, and then we manifest those things. And so if we begin to start thinking differently, we move differently, and our stinking thinking will only lead to results that have that. So it's constantly telling myself about who I am and where I come from. And although I may feel like, many people may feel like I have so much further to go, but one of the things that is always shared is I was having a conversation with my boyfriend the other day, and he was like, you have gone through 100% of all of your hard days. You've made it through, right? It's about perspective. If we think about every hard day that we have, the fact that you could talk about it means that you 100% went through it and you achieved it, and it's over and it's done. So I think it's just constantly telling yourself that this is a moment in time, but this moment in time will not last always. There's always something better, and I can learn from this and grow from this and develop from this. So I always say that this is preparing me for something greater.
I love that. Thank you so much for being transparent and answering that question. So, I did my homework. I reviewed your page. The next couple of phrases I pulled from your videos that I would love for you guys to shed some more light on, okay? Healing isn't always about doing. Sometimes it's about unlearning, sitting still, and simply being. Dr. Tanna, please highlight that for us because that was amazing. I'll repeat it one more time. Healing isn't always about doing. Sometimes it's about unlearning, sitting still, and simply being.
Yeah, so for me, I thought that healing meant constantly doing something, constantly trying to change the narrative, constantly trying to do that. But when we don't sit still, it's hard for us to find answers.
Right.
And sometimes your healing is just being still and quiet so that you can figure out the pieces of your life that you want to become better. And so it's not always, am I doing these things to work on it? Sometimes it is just sitting still because it's in the still moments where you can find your answers. And it's in those quiet spaces where you're not trying to navigate all of the things that you're going through to find an answer. Sometimes it's hard to find an answer when there's so much noise. And so stop trying to figure it out and just sit still and know that it will come to you through that process.
I love that. It will definitely come to you. Continuing on another video, you are not behind. Healing takes time, and time is love when it's spent on becoming whole. Could you just shed a little bit of light on that? You are not behind. Healing takes time. I've invited some previous healthcare professionals within the mental health space, and they're always stressing about different journeys, and we can't put a timeline on our healing journey. So that question, this sentence resonated with me when I saw it on your page. You are not behind. Healing takes time, and time is love when it's spent on becoming whole.
Yeah, so I think that we have a tendency to, I will not say others. For me, I look at the healing journey, especially going through the same thing, and then I made an assumption that because I wasn't there, then I was behind the eight ball. Like, well, you've been divorced for this long, you should be here, or you've experienced this, you should be here. But I recognize that my time, there's so much beauty in the process because what we love is the outcome. Right. But what becomes challenging is the process. And so I had to recognize that there was beauty in my process. There was beauty in my brokenness. that there was beauty in developing who I needed to become whole. And I wasn't behind. I was actually exactly where I was supposed to on that. Then I could get to a space where I was allowing myself to feel and to be and to do. And so that for me became very pivotal.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that in the chat. And it is the gems are definitely resonating in the chat. I'm reading the chat, and they are definitely seeing these gems. I want to continue. Healing means forgiving the past, not because they deserve it, but because your soul does. Dr. Tina, I'm pulling the ones that resonated with me. Okay, I'm going to repeat it one more time. Healing means forgiving the past, not because they deserve it, but because your soul does. Please shed some light.
Absolutely. I remember that conversation that I was having with myself. And so I think that we oftentimes looked at forgiveness or being that person being worthy, but forgiveness is for you, never for them. So when you're stuck in a space, because what we do know is that hurt and pain resonates a lot of things in us. And when we are healed and we haven't forgiven, it shuts the opportunity for us to move forward. Right. So I had to recognize on my healing journey that this wasn't about the other person. This was so much what my soul needed. And because I was free and clear, I forgave because that you forget. It just means you no longer hold them hostage from a space that they were never intended to heal you from. So you can never get something from someone that broke you expecting them to heal you. You can't expect for someone that bled on you to stop the bleeding. So you have to get to a space where you say, I forgive you because this frees me and my soul deserves all that I have, right? All that is supposed to come to me. And I can only get that from being clean and clear of the spaces and opportunities that are afforded to me once I open myself up and forgive.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That was amazing. And that's so important. Yes, we may sound like a broken record saying that, you forgive not for others, but for yourself. But just that's like I'm never going to stop talking about mental health. I'm never going to stop talking about you got to forgive, not for them, but for yourself. Okay, so thank you so much for shedding some light on that. Okay, once again, I'm still on your page. Okay, so let's continue. Stop shrinking yourself to fit people and places that you've outgrown. Dr. Tanna, I want you to drop these gems, and I want these specific gems. Okay, Dr. Tanna? Stop shrinking yourself to fit people and places that you've outgrown. What's up?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of us on a healing journey, we want to take everybody with us. Right. And sometimes we will begin to shrink who we authentically are, who God created us to be, to fit in a space that says the only way that you can accept me is I will shrink myself. So I find myself a lot. I am a talker. I'm an expresser. Bold things. Those are my things. And I remember being in spaces where people said, you can't do that. Or I remember cutting my hair off and dyeing it platinum and someone saying, you can't do that as an administrator. It's not polished enough. Okay. And I'm going to live my life out loud. I'm going to authentically be myself because what is on the outside doesn't define who I am. And if I have to shrink myself to fit into the space, I'm in the wrong place. Because anytime you have to do that, it stunts growth. And we're never in a space where we stop growing. So I will never shrink myself to marginalize what I have inside of me to make others feel comfortable.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Dr. Michelle Henry said, absolutely. Let's Believe It said, that is right. I want to switch gears. Before I switch gears, you also mentioned self-restoration. What advice would you give somebody who is finding themselves on a self-restoration journey, but kind of going back and forth on maybe people-pleasing or going back and forth on staying in spaces they've outgrown? What advice would you give somebody who's on a journey of self-restoration?
So, great question. I think one of the things that I had to constantly remind myself was to give myself grace, because every day will not be a good day, but there will be good in every day.
Right.
If you take the time, even in your space of the learning, that if you don't beat yourself up because today I went back and I reminisced and I thought about it, it's saying, today I'm so much better than I was a day ago or 3 months ago. So it's giving yourself grace and reminding yourself that you are experiencing welcome to the human experience, right? And saying to yourself, each day that I move forward to my healing is a step greater. Because I'm not so stagnant. I'm moving. So as long as you move, just keep moving in the journey. Even if it doesn't feel great, you know that every step that you take, you're building that muscle. And so eventually you'll get to a space of healing not for anyone else, but for you. So give yourself grace in each day. Just know that you're moving towards your healing.
Give yourself grace. I hope y'all heard that. Give yourself grace. So now we're actually going to switch gears. And we talked about this being in different spaces professionally. Okay, so let's get on the professional side. Before we get into that, how important is representation in higher education?
It's super important, right?
Mm-hmm.
For more than from the aspect of, we're represented here, but our children, our future, our generation look for us. And I want to be able to show, children, girls, boys, that you too can be called doctor. You too can have a master's. You can, because I think that education, Malcolm X said, it is a passport to the future, right? It takes you wherever you want to go. And so if we have representation in education, it spotlights that I have an opportunity to do great things because where you currently are is not where you're going to go. But you have the power to do it. And so just like I received a PhD that says you are a doctor, anyone else that look just like me and you have the opportunity to do the same. And so it's showing them that it's tangible because sometimes our children, especially in the area that I work in now, all of our kids are free and reduced lunch. They see poverty and they think that this is it. And so we're here to say, if you can touch it, if you're this close to me, then I have what's inside of me and I'm going to pass that to you. So I ignite in you to want greater.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that kind of is why I come on here and do what I do for representation purposes. I'm always on that saying, hey, I look like you, I sound like you. You guys can get my same degrees. You can get my same job titles. You guys can get my same professional and education experiences. Why? Because I look like you, I sound like you. If I attained it, you can attain it too. So thank you so much for reinforcing that, Dr. Taylor. Okay. I want to kind of stay on this topic of education. Office over here in office hours with Dr. Johnson. Do like to get controversial a little bit, but we still can navigate it professionally. Okay. With this current administration, not to get too political, but hey, let's just speak the facts. Let's keep it above the okay. With this current administration, how do you feel it's affected or will affect the overall educational system? As a subject matter expert in education, what is your professional standpoint on that?
Yeah, it's really hard because a lot of our funding, right, comes from federal funding. And so it limits students' ability to access and to gain. And so when you remove funding, and if funding drives how we educate our children and programs that we have in schools, a lot of those are being cut because we just don't have the funding.
Right.
And in turn, a lot of our students miss out on the opportunity. So for our children, a lot of my background is special education.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of resources and tools that we use, we rely on funding to get it, programming. And so it will greatly diminish the quality of education if we are putting, our funds where it's needed most, and putting in spaces that will impact our future. I go back to teach a class, a graduate doctoral class, and our students were talking about the third grade bid, right? The third grade years, where all data is pulled from when students are evaluated, and they call it the third grade bid from, that theory that by the third grade, you have to be able to have a full understanding of reading, writing, and all of that. And when you don't, the penal system takes that data to determine how many bids they will have. And so that is that theory that it is the third grade bid. Then if we're not creating programs around students who have a disability or, who are in our general population, what will happen. And so that theory is behind it because if someone gets incarcerated, do they ever have to wait for a bid, right? So how do you know that percentage? And so it came from the third grade theory. And so if our children aren't being educated quickly and by third grade they can't read and write, it becomes very difficult. But if we don't stand behind federal funding and our administration to push that, where does that leave our students?
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that and shedding some light on that from your professional standpoint. Tanna, this was amazing. You dropped gems. I knew it was right to invite you up on here, just like how I knew it was right to invite up Dr. Michelle Emily on here to end off the interview. You know a question I'm going to ask you, so I'm sure you had some time to kind of prepare. What is Dr. Tanna's overall why as it relates to the work that you do, as it relates to you being a subject matter expert in education? What is Dr. Tanna's overall why?
So my why is to ensure that every child, especially my children with disabilities. There's a saying that I say that inside of every struggling child lives a successful one. So my why is to ensure that every child finds success. It gets to live in their genius, because once they do that, it not only impacts them, but it touches everybody that they come in contact with. And the overall goal for me is to ensure that our communities are there and that we produce people just like you and I, Dr. Johnson.
Amazing. Thank you so much for saying that, Dr. Johnson. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to step into office hours with Dr. Johnson. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your journey. I see them dropping hearts in the chat. Dr. Michelle Henry, I see you. So thank you so much. Dr. Tanna, let me drop you down so you can keep your points, okay? Thank you so much. We'll definitely be in touch, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you so very much, Dr. Johnson.
No problem.
Have a great night.
You too. Okay, everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for sticking around. That was Dr. Tanna and that was Dr. Michelle Henry, two subject matter experts in their respective fields. Like I said earlier on before I brought them up, I've been trying out interviewing more than one guest on my lives leading up to my conference, where it's going to be a panel of 4 of us. So just to kind of get you guys ready for multiple questions from different people from different perspectives. So once again, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for sticking around. That was Dr. Michelle Henry and that was Dr. Tanna, two subject matter experts in there. I'm repeating this because I only bring on the best of the best. Governor, I see you. Thank you so much. We were just wrapping it up. You guys know I only bring on the best of the best. Ellie Mack, I see you. Thank you so much for liking the live. Once again, so with me bringing on more than one guest, normally I end off my lives with the professor tips, but we don't have time for that. It's time to wrap it up. Okay, you guys have been here for a while. I've held y'all here for a while. So thank you so much. The first interview took up our interview time, and the second interview took up our professor tips. So that was our professor tips. Our professor tips today was Dr. Tanna. Once again, our professor tips for today was Dr. Tanna. Governor, I see you. Thank you so much for your support. I see you. Dr. Michelle Henry, once again, I see you liking the live. Thank you so much. Dr. Tanna, I see you. Thank you so much. Briefly, before I let you guys go, before I end it, September 16th is the Healthcare Synergy Conference hosted by myself. It's going to be 7:30 p.m. here, live on TikTok. Blessed Believer, I see you. Thank you so much for your support. I see you. 7:30 p.m. September 16th. Ellie Mac, no problem. I know school come first. You know school come first. You don't have to share that excuse. I see you, Ellie Mac. I see you. Dr. Lewis, I see you. Speaking of Dr. Lewis, me, Dr. Lewis, who's in the chat, Dr. Logan, and Dr. Elric Jean-Pierre, we will be hosting the Healthcare Synergy Conference September 16th, which is next Tuesday. So next Tuesday is not going to be an office hours. It's going to be the Healthcare Synergy Conference at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Why am I doing this conference? I'm going to show you guys why I'm doing this conference the day of the conference. But just to give you guys a little background, I wanted to bring together a group of people. I see you. Thank you so much, Ellie. I wanted to bring together a group of healthcare professionals, a group of subject matter experts in their respective fields to answer a variety of questions, to answer some important questions in healthcare, for you guys to pick our brain, for you guys to receive the gems we have to drop. I'm always on here on office hours. You guys are always hearing from me, and you guys know I like to bring in great professionals doing great work within their field. So the Healthcare Synergy Conference is about collaboration. It's going to be a collaborative panel discussion on a variety of topics that are important in healthcare. Make sure you guys are there. Even if you're not a healthcare professional, even if you're not a student studying some type of healthcare subject, still stop by, still come receive some gems, still come hear why cultural competency in healthcare is important, still come and hear how the current administration is affecting overall healthcare systems. Still come and stop by, show support, and listen in on 4 great subject matter experts. Once again, the Healthcare Synergy Conference, September 16th, which is next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there or you're going to miss it. And if you miss it, all my videos are posted on YouTube. All of my office hour sessions are posted on YouTube, so don't miss it. Just be here on the live. Dr. Michelle Henry, I can't wait to see you there too. Ellie Mack, I can't wait to see you there too. I see you. Once again, September 16th, 7:30 p.m., Dr. Johnson is hosting the Healthcare Synergy Conference. Pals, I see you. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around. I kept you guys over an hour. Normally, I like to keep you guys at least like an hour. Dr. Tanna, I'm excited too. I see you. So the Healthcare Synergy Conference, I'm repeating it, so we got it. The Healthcare Synergy Conference, September 16th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What they say, be there or be square. Yeah, that's where you want to be next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. And come listen to me, come listen to Dr. Lewis, come listen to Dr. Logan Smith, and come listen to Dr. Ulrich Jean Pierre. Before I let you guys go, Dr. Ulrich Jean Pierre, he's a physical therapist. Dr. Lewis here, who's in the chat, she's a public health subject matter expert. Y'all know what I do, healthcare administration subject matter expert. And then Dr. Logan Smith, she is a nurse and she has her doctorate of healthcare administration, so she's a nursing subject matter expert. Dr. Kimberly Douglas, I was just about to wrap up my office hours. I was letting them know next Tuesday, and you know about this too. And also shout out to Dr. Kimberly Douglas. I met with her a couple months ago off TikTok, and we discussed this project that I'm working on now. So I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Kimberly Douglas, who kind of helped me to hey, if this is what you want to do it. And this is how you should do it. So she really gave me some tips and tricks on how to put this conference together. So Dr. Kimberly Douglas, you popped in at the right time, divine time. And thank you so much for stopping by. We were just wrapping things up. Dr. Lewis, I'll see you. Dr. Douglas, sorry, I'll see you next Tuesday. Healthcare Synergy Conference. I want you to come by and stop by and see the work that you helped me put together, okay? Thank you so much. You are shining. Thank you so much, Dr. Douglas. Everybody have a good night. I'll see you next Tuesday. What's happening next Tuesday? The Healthcare Synergy Conference, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ellie Mac, I see you. Thank you so much. I got to switch. You know what's crazy? I don't like to repeat the same shirts and post them on YouTube, so I have to make sure I keep switching out the shirts and switching out, variety. Because I have people back home in Jamaica who watch my videos, and I don't want them to see me in the same clothes on YouTube every now and then. So I'm always switch up the shirts. Thank you so much. The bracelets, thank you. Y'all do know I can't promote nothing. Onyx Link Shop, I do sell bracelets on the side. But yes, thank you, Ellie. I see you. Thank you so much for telling me you like my outfit, Caribbean brides. Is that Puerto Rico or Dominican? Y'all, I gotta go. Y'all keep keeping me here. Ellie Mac, is it Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic? Sometimes I get confused. I don't want to mess it up. Because either PR, okay, PR. You know what's crazy, Ellie Mac? Everybody, my students, they constantly confuse me for being either Dominican or Puerto Rican. But once they hear me speak, they're like, Dr. Johnson, you kind of have an accent. Where is that from? I'm like, Jamaica. But I'm constantly, and being here in South Florida, Miami, I'm constantly being confused for being Puerto Rican or Dominican all the time, Ellie Mac. Everybody have a good night. I'll see you. What's happening next Tuesday? Healthcare Synergy Conference, hosted by Dr. Johnson, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I can't wait to drop these gems. I can't wait to connect with you guys, and I can't wait to show you guys what I'm so passionate about, okay? Have a great night, and thank you so much for your continued support.